We're now with the General Sessions Court, and Judge Higgins, if you could introduce yourself and your colleagues and then make whatever budget presentation you'd like to make.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Deputy Mayor, Mr. Director, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Bill Higgins. I'm the presiding judge of the 11 General Sessions Courts. I'm happy to have with me Judge Dalton, Judge Robinson, our Court Administrator Warner Hassel, Assistant Ms. Fox, Mr. John Slate, head of our Traffic School Bureau, and Mr. Bob Green, able director of our Probation Department. Mr. Mayor, the executive branch, of course, you got your police force, and the city council's got the purse strings, but the judicial branch has neither a sword nor a purse. As you know, we can exist and function only so long as we have the respect and the confidence of the people, and as long as you meet our modest budgetary requirements. Now, before we tell you what we'd like you to give us, I'll tell you what we've done for you. I know you expect that. We've been quite busy over the past year. We've had over almost 400,000 cases. And what was kind of surprising to me, Ms. Donna Blackburn, you're familiar with her. Ms. Blackburn says that of our 241,000 criminal cases, we have a case clearance rate of 101.7%. And of course, the reason for that, I'm told, is long about Christmas. Sadly to say, there's a lot of drunk driving and shoplifting, and those cases weren't heard in January. So that gave us, I believe that's right, Judge Dalton, the reason we went over 100%.
There are more cases than you got.
Exactly. Of course, that may roll over. You know how that goes, Mayor. Those criminal cases, by the way, we assessed fines and court costs of $24 million. But Mr. Gentry, who was just in here, of course, that's his job to collect that. What we did collect for the taxpayers in the city of Nashville, $3.8 million. And that was through our probation supervision fees, and our traffic school generated $3.8 million. I'm not going to go through a lot of these statistics. Unless you have any questions for me, I'm going to yield to Judge Dalton here for our wish list.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Hinote, Mr. Riebling, for having us this afternoon. And I'll talk a little bit about some of our budget improvement requests. As you know, as a result of the domestic violence safety assessment, there are some changes that we're looking at making in the General Sessions Court. The good thing is that we're not just looking at the changes that impact the domestic violence cases. We're looking at basically an overall overhaul of the General Sessions Court operations, which we think would allow for the cases to be heard in a more timely and effective manner across the board. We've been working very closely with the public defender, the district attorney, the clerks, both clerks, Mr. Rooker and Mr. Gentry, the sheriff's office, the police department, to try to look at some things that we can do to improve our overall docket management. So as a result of that, hopefully we have a target date of September 1st of implementing a new operation of the General Sessions Court. A part of that is a dedicated domestic violence court. And with that domestic violence court, we're hopeful that we will address many of the issues that were brought to the forefront in the domestic violence safety assessment. We're looking to have, in order for us to fully implement that, we will need a court officer, in-court security officer to sort of help maintain some of the issues that we see inside the courtroom, a probation officer to help with, an additional probation officer on top of what we have to assist with the supervision specifically of domestic violence cases. We would also need a supervisor who would basically supervise all of the probation officers who would be assigned to the dedicated domestic violence dockets. And then, of course, there would be the benefits associated with those positions. We're also, some other things that we're looking at in order to implement the recommendations from the assessment are some support staff representatives to assist with some of the issues that we see in our night court. Our night court is pretty much the first, I don't know, I would call it a staging area for cases that come through the court system. That's where victims go not only to seek the criminal warrants, but to get orders of protection and orders of protections. And there are so many issues that we have seen as a result of that domestic violence safety assessment that needs to be addressed. So we would definitely need support staff to address some of those issues, and also some probation field surveillance officers to help monitor the compliance of those who are placed on probation out of the dedicated domestic violence court. Additional uniforms and firearms for the probation field supervisors. And when we talk about field supervisors, the probation field supervisors would actually do home visits for people who are placed on probation for the domestic violence cases. And because of the nature of those cases, we definitely want to make sure that we have trained and prepared probation officers to handle those matters and the benefits that would be associated with that. And in addition to that, it would be really important for those who would be dealing with the cases involving domestic violence to receive training, and sometimes ongoing training on the various dynamics of domestic violence, because they're going to be dealing with people who are not your typical defendants that we see. They're going to be kind of dealing in an area where they're going to need some of the specialized training. So we would definitely want to have ongoing training, not only for the probation officers, but even for the judges to make sure that we're appropriately handling the cases. So those are some of the things that we're looking at in terms of budget improvements. I think Mr. Hassel has some other things that he wanted to talk about, unless you, Mr. Hassel.
In addition to what Judge Dalton mentioned, we have made a request for a social worker position to assist in a veterans court. It's our understanding there may be a pass-through, federal grant that may be coming our way, and but we haven't gotten a confirmation on that yet. But we would need a minimum of one position there, and it may result in extra positions depending if the grant does make it our way. In addition to that, we have a request for special judge compensation, which would cover retired judges or former judges that are sitting as substitute judges for the General Sessions judges. There was a resolution that passed the council back in December that set up that authorization locally per state statute. That pretty well touches on most of our improvement requests. When it comes to the 3% reduction, we've identified how, if we had to, how that would come about. One of the items is something we've presented before as part of a cut in the past, if it should come about, and that is dealing with the online traffic school. We would have to partner with the National Safety Council or some other entity to operate that program for the benefit of the court referrals. It would result in lost revenue to the government. If it was a good tight partnership, it may not be as much revenue as what we initially thought, but that would be a way that would not impact employees directly. The judges, in considering this, they wanted to consider something that would not directly impact employees that are currently on board. The other option would involve night court in a kind of a two-phase process, one of which would be effective July 1st. We would lose one judicial commissioner. And so the commissioners would still be covering the 3 shifts, but they would have to work longer before they got off. So it would be a pretty grueling schedule for that first 6 months. January 1st, we would enlist the criminal court clerk's office to assist us with one of the 3 shifts, which by statute they can issue warrants, set bonds, and the bonds could be reviewed the next day by a judge. That would allow the commissioners to have more time off rather than working. That's almost 21 straight days they would work that first 6 months if that should take place. So.
Then after the first 6 months, what happens?
After the first 6 months, then we would have a total of 3 commissioners. So we would have a commissioner that would work from 7 to 3. The clerk would take the shift 3 to 11, and then the other commissioner would work 11 to 7. And so we'd just be down to 3 commissioners.
What do they work now? You have 5?
Well, we have a total of 5, and they work a 5-week work cycle where they work 3 weeks, they work 2 weeks, they're off, or they work 1 week, they're off, they work 2 weeks in a row, and then they're off.
So they work at 8-hour shifts when they're working?
8-hour shifts, and they work a 7-day work week. Their work week is currently 7 days.
Okay.
Neither of these are desirable. I mean, short of laying off employees or having some more type of draconian cuts, this is something that the judges developed.
Okay. Anything else?
I think that's it. We thank you for hearing us, and if you have any questions of us about
And then the judges have voted you're going to a schedule where there's no week off, right?
that's correct.
And when does that?
Excuse me. If I may address that,
Sounds like
Mayor.
maybe it wasn't unanimous vote? Is that what
No comment. It was most definitely a unanimous vote that we voted at our retreat to do a major overhaul of the entire operation and docketing system of the General Sessions Court.
Right.
The docket will look something very briefly similar to this. We're going to work in 5 teams of 2 judges. That's 10 judges. Judge Moreland's already out of the rotation. He does a complete criminal docket every day of the week, every day of the week, every week. Judge Dalton and I will be a team. She will hear domestic violence cases every day of the week, 5 days a week, every week of the year. I'll be out of the rotation on a criminal docket. She and I will rotate. She and I will have courtrooms next to each other where I can help her or she can help me as it relates to the domestic violence docket. The other judges are going to work in teams. There'll be no more week off as the rotation because we're basically not going to be in a rotation. On our MTMHI week, that judge will be available to do the backup civil judge. And of course, as I've said before, we're all Metro employees and we're entitled to a vacation every now and then, and we will each be responsible. We will each be accountable for the weeks that our vacation falls on. And that's structured into this rotation. So the docketing at the General Sessions level, this will be the first major overhaul since early 70s when they consolidated the city and General Sessions courts.
It's quite an achievement.
I can assure you.
It's been a heck of a retreat.
It was about the only thing on the retreat for the biggest thing. But
Well, congratulations. Good work. That's a good thing.
Well, we're happy to work with you and for something that needs to be done.
And I think that the other major achievement with this, Mayor Dean, is that it's a collaborative effort. Not only the 11 judges working together to come up with this docketing system, it's a collaborative effort with the other players in the system, because we recognize that the justice system works with the public defender, the district attorney, and the clerk, and the sheriff, and the police. And it's really important that we took their considerations, and we currently are taking their considerations into account as we move forward and work through this process. It's a huge task, a huge undertaking. We're meeting pretty much bi-weekly to address, many of the issues that arise as it relates to trying to move and transition from the current docketing system to the new system, and with hopes that it'll be fully operational effective September 1st.
Good. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. Sincerely, thank you for that, for doing that. And we'll do the best we can with this. And I appreciate the thought that went into this. Good job. And Judge, I like the newsletter.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you.
I get it and read it. So thank
Appreciate your vote next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did we do everything?